Hey, Closet Busters, come on and gather around. It's time once again to kick down those closet doors of life. We're here to escape our BS, explore our fears, and elevate our self-expression. I'm your host, Rick Clemens, bold move expert and coming out coach, and I'm going to take you to the party, the pulpit, the wake, and back to the party of living your life uncloseted. So come on, grab hold of yourself and get ready to step out, step up, and step into living your truth as we explore more stories, tips, and tricks for living your life uncloseted. Now let's get to the show. Hey, closet dwellers and bold move makers, you know what time it is. Yes, it's time for Life Uncloseted, and we are not going to disagree because it is Father's Day. It's the Father's Day show. Okay, it's not really Father's Day. It's a few days before, but hey, you do the best you can because you know what? I'm a dad, so Father's Day, I'm going to keep my ass in bed, and I'm not getting up. That's my gift to myself. But one of the things I find so interesting is, man, dads, we're such an interesting breed, and there's nothing new about really anything about being a dad, especially when suddenly you hear, oh, he's single and divorced, and then you add the thing, oh, and he's gay. And then everything changes in a lot of people's minds. It's like, well, wait, how is he gay, divorced, and a dad? Or how is he gay, divorced, and single? I mean, all these things start to show up, but then you realize, oh my God, there are so many different kinds of dads. And when you have these different kinds of dads show up, it's a beautiful thing because some dads step into that power and say, okay, I'm gay, I'm single, and I'm a dad, and they take and they run with that. And that's exactly what today's guest has done. His name is Frank Lowe. He's a blogger. He's an author. He's a proud dad of a precocious 8-year-old who, before he knows it, will be 21 years old. And he will really be pulling his hair out through those years. But what I love about this guy is he is really uncloseting himself. And he has taken the gay at home dad and made it who he is, what he's all about. And I couldn't think of a better guest to bring to the show for Father's Day than...
Absolutely. Hi. And it's funny you call it Father's Day. I've lately been calling it Daddy's Day. I think that's just so much more appropriate. Yeah, in so many different ways. There's so many different connotations it brings. But
you know, it's so interesting because my husband and I have been together now going on 17 years. And when we met, my kids, biological kids, and we'll get into some of that as we discuss, as we kibitz amongst ourselves for the next 30 minutes or so. We'll talk about all that lovely stuff. But everybody was always so fascinated with, well, what do your daughters call him? Because they were there, you know?
Yeah.
And I think this is one of those things that happens in many LGBTQ relationships, but especially with lesbian, and gay guy. It's like, well, do you call him dad? Do you call him papa?
I think that's, you know what that is, though? I think that is a straight, I'm just going to say this. I think that is a straight person's easy question in, like an easy icebreaker. And I think that's like, it's probably one of the most benign questions you could possibly ask. You know, you're not asking, where does this kid come from? You're just going, oh, what do they call it? That's just, I think it's almost like charmingly cute. And I notice that this comes up with us a lot too. I think it's funny.
Well, I think it's funny too, because you can either tell by the way somebody asks it, like, oh, wow, so, you know, are you called dad and is he called papa? So if they come at it with a really like strong, then they're really secure in the conversation. It's like, oh, so what do your kids call you? It's like they don't know quite what to say, so this is an easy way in, you know?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. It's an easy icebreaker, and I think it's like something. And I have a cute, of course, and I don't know if you do, but I have a cute little story about ours. Our son, who was adopted from age birth, so we basically had him since I literally watched him come out of his mother. That's how long we've had him for. And like you said, he's 8, he's almost 9. And when he was, I guess, around 1, when they start talking, I've forgotten how to tell you the truth. It's been so long. But I remember that he had a problem calling. I would always say that I'm daddy to him. So I got first biddings there just because I was, like you said, the gay at home, the stay at home dad. So I made sure that I established myself as daddy. I was dad. And then I called my ex other daddy. That's just how I refer to him. Like, well, your other daddy, you know what I mean? Like, that's just how. So over the course of a couple years, or not a couple years, but a few, 8 months or something like that, he started calling him oh daddy, which we thought was so adorable, and it just kind of stuck. So that's what he still calls him. I'm Daddy, and and my ex is Oh Daddy.
Right.
And I think that's adorable. It's almost like, and he's not even Irish, but it's very cute. So it stuck. But yeah, it's funny because you're right. Like the whole poppy. I've heard I've heard probably every iteration of that word that you can imagine for describing two males or two females, especially after this book that I've written. But yeah, exactly. I agree.
So we're going to get to your book.
I'm sorry. I jumped ahead there.
No, that's so cool, because that's part of the reason I wanted you on here, is because I want people to see that there's lots of different resources for those of you who may struggle with understanding gay people having kids. And especially your book is really going to talk about that. But let's kind of roll back a little bit. So when did you realize, okay, this gay at home dad thing is something I'm just going to run with and see what happens? I mean, what was like that igniting moment? Or was there even like a
Sure. Yeah, I know exactly. I can definitely tell you. So I moved from Chicago with my now ex up to rural Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
And we got like a, your typical suburban house, and like we were very suburban, lived in a huge neighborhood of people and whatnot. Well, after a while, my personality type was, I was screaming in a way, like inside to get out. And I thought, you know what I can do? I can hop on Twitter. I can come up with this crazy name @GayAtHomeDad, which really suited kind of what I was doing at the time anyway. And kind of do self-deprecating jokes that almost make fun of the stereotype that people that were otherwise ignorant would think about a gay parent, if that makes any sense. Like one of my most basic jokes ever was, when my kid scrapes his knee, he gets a Prada Band-Aid. It's like, it's so silly. It's so, you know what I mean? It's so whatever. But that was kind of how I was using humor to diffuse what was kind of a new concept at the time, which was gay parenting. So I was kind of trying to, that was my whole shtick. And then I thought to myself, well, shit, for every follower that I get, they can technically say they know of a gay parent. So all of a sudden it's not this alien thing. It's like, oh, well, sure, there's Gary at Home Dad on Twitter. Like, sure. So that was kind of my goal.
I had one of those moments. The first time we took our daughters on a cruise, like a true cruise, everybody started asking, oh, what cruise line are you going on? I'm like, well, the Queen Mary, of course. I mean, hello. And of course, sometimes it went really well. I mean, obviously in the gay community, it went over really well. In the straight community, like, why? Of course, the Queen Mary. I'm like, oh, honey.
Right. There's a little more backstory.
Yeah, we're going to have a little coffee talk here. We're going to introduce you to gay culture, okay?
Tea time and the bits. Yeah, exactly. That's great.
But it is funny that some of the most common things that a lot of people, and I love my heterosexual, well, not all of them.
But me too. I do too. I'm the same way. So I'm not one of those gays that's like very like,
Well, obviously, I mean, the moment you described, that you watched your son come out of, the vagina, I'm like, not the normal gay, because some of our gay brothers would be like, oh, I need my smelling salt. I know.
Yeah, clutching pearls and passing out, and I was there. Like it was
listening to this clutch pearls. That's definitely something we'll explain that in a different episode altogether. So
okay, cool.
But what's so interesting is so many people take for granted some of the most simplistic things about parenting that they're like, oh yeah, everybody goes through that, and I'm like, oh no. If you're a gay parent, there's a whole nother list of stuff you start going.
Well, there is. Well, sure.
Yeah, and what are some of those things that you've hit? I mean, I've got a list of things. I'll start to kind of like roll this. I'll never forget the very first time I truly felt uncomfortable was when my husband and I, so this is probably 15, 16 years ago. I'm trying to think. It's at least 16 years ago because we did a first trip with the girls and we walked into a hotel.
Okay.
2 guys. 2 young girls, so the girls were almost 6 and 2 at that point in time, and we're checking in to a room with 2 queen beds.
Okay.
It's like early 2000s, so we're kind of starting to come over the curve somewhat of LGBTQ stuff, but
you were still definitely like in the pioneering stage.
Oh yeah, we're in the pioneering phase.
Like I remember kind of like,
well, we have you in 2 queen beds. Was this supposed to be 2 rooms?
Right.
And it was like, oh my God, we're really going to
You have to out yourself is really
Yes.
what it boils down to. It's like there's no way around it. You are going to now have to explain something that is otherwise extremely personal to someone you shouldn't have to, but I absolutely know exactly.
And of course, in that moment, I'm like, okay, my husband's Hispanic, and this is not meant to be a racial slur, but I'm going to go there.
Okay.
I almost wanted to go, no, me and my daughters are going to sleep in one bed, and our nanny boy is going to sleep in the other, okay? And I thought, no, that would make it even worse, because now I'm saying I'm sleeping with my daughters who are 4 and 2, and, it's just
right, exactly.
But you've got to run into similar things, too. I mean, it's just got to be.
Oh, and I certainly have. I mean, my big joke is that my son outed us, like, essentially, because we lived in this the town of 26,000 people, and in the red part of Connecticut, which, believe me, everybody, it does exist. Everybody thinks of Connecticut as a very blue state. Just like every other state, there are the red parts. We happen to live in the red parts. So before we were just 2 guys, maybe just like having like dinner, or it could be a business meeting, because that happens very often where I live, things like that. But all of a sudden, the minute we brought a child with us, it was crystal clear we're a family. There was just no doubt about it. And so it would be the constant, you know what I mean? Like that's where I always like kind of like think about our restaurants is where we were constantly under criticism from maybe the waitress had her own personal opinions, and we kind of pick up on that all of a sudden, or a passerby literally stops and says like, "Oh, so cute. Where's the mom?" That's definitely happened to us a couple times. And I'm like, not in his life. Like, I'm his mother. Actually, that's what I say. I say, I'm right here. So, I have no problem. I think that also stems from coming from a big city. Like, I have no problem. Like, if someone's staring at us at a restaurant, I will stare them down back until they turn their head, and then they'll turn their head to see if I'm checking. And I'm still staring at you. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, I assert myself with, negative people, if you will.
Don't feel that comfortable, and I think that what I've noticed
I don't know where it comes from. Trust me.
Well, but I think some of it comes from just being able to trust yourself to be exactly who you are and go,
right.
Yeah. And yes, this is my husband, at the time, and all this sort of stuff. And I'm not going to, and it actually gets worse. I mean, it probably won't for you because it's you and your son. So I know different dynamics, and I can't comment to that because I'm not the father of a son.
Because I'm divorced now. I think we mentioned that, but I'm divorced now. So it's been about 3 years.
Yeah, but here's where it gets really dicey. When you have 2 girls, and then suddenly they're like 12 and 14.
Oh, I can't imagine the tween. I'm already scared of the tween years.
Oh,
Oh, God, I can't imagine that.
Yes. Well, make sure there's alcohol involved for you, not for him.
Well, of course.
Smelling salts, Valium, pot every once in a while will help just to like completely numb out and go, okay, whatever. But
of course,
it's definitely different. But those moments were even worse for us because, again, let's go through the hotel scenario and. Like this year's going to be an interesting one. We are actually going to a conference in Portland, and the girls are going. And we have had some trouble finding an Airbnb. So right now we have done the family. We're all staying together. We're all staying in a hotel room together. And now we've got a 19-year-old, a 23-year-old, and 2 gay dads who nobody really knows we're gay, but they're going to look at us and we're in our 50s and go, oh.
Yep. Put 2 and 2 together. But I will say that's in Portland, which I think that you're a little like, West Coast, I think, and even Portland. No, I mean, Portland's a little odd to me. No offense if you're from Portland listening to this, but I admire your kind of odd, actually, if you are listening to this and you're in Portland. It's kind of, I had a friend that just came back from Portland, was like raved about it. And like he and his partner were comfortable holding hands down the street and things like that. So you guys will be fine. But I do understand the tension leading up to it. Like, okay, like this is a lot of personality maybe in one room, or something like that. So,
and it's been a while since we've done this. It's been a while. I mean, we travel with all the time, so it's not a big thing. But I was just thinking about this the other day, going, wait, we haven't done like all of us in one hotel room in a while, because even over the holidays we traveled, but we had separate hotel rooms and we go on.
Sure.
We've been in separate cabins, and it's like, wow, we're actually going to do this, which I feel really sorry for a couple of people in the room because 2 people snore a lot. hello, me, being one of those who snores a lot, and one of our daughters snores a lot. It's like, okay, well, nobody's going to get any sleep. So part of the family prep is I'm buying a gigantic thing of earplugs for those who,
That's nice. That's a good idea. I'm going to tell you where you're going to get into trouble right now, because I just came back from a family trip where my son came with me, him, and my parents, and we all shared a bathroom. That's where it gets tricky. It's the bathroom. It's like when you have 4 adults, practically, my kids, well, a small team, but still, preteen. But sharing the bathroom was like, are you okay? Like who, we'd be fighting. Like it would literally be like racing back from the restaurant. This is terrible. Racing back from the restaurant at night after like being at a park all day, and one of us screaming, "I've got dibs in the bathroom. If you got to pee, you better go the second you get to that damn room."
Exactly.
Like it changes. It's funny.
But my kids are my daughters are pretty good. I mean, they're, like I said, they're 19 and 23, so we've kind of worked through some of this, but it has, it's kind of interesting to be thinking about it. Now, of course, I'm still looking for an Airbnb. Okay, if we can find one, I'd rather do that.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Right, exactly.
There's this other thing that's like, okay, we've done pretty well with this whole thing because they've been with us a bulk of the time. I mean, even through their coming of woman age stuff, when they both got their periods, guess what? They were with us. So
right.
Some of the crazy stuff. So I'm curious now. You kind of step into this. You start doing this get-home dad thing, and it just kind of took off. Is that what happened?
It did kind of take off. I had a couple of accounts that really helped kind of push my jokes forward, and I thank them. And actually, they're kind of gone now. Off. There used to be, I was anonymous for a good year, so my actual name on there wasn't Frank Lowe. It was at Gay at Home Dad. And so I think that just, I don't know, all that kind of helped push. I think it was just, Twitter is like, everybody always says the same thing to me about Twitter. I don't understand Twitter. And I say the same thing back. I don't get it either. Like, I literally don't understand it. It's a beast. It's like a weird thing. And I just happen to, and I would even say right now I'm kind of like at a plateau. So I need to like elevate things, but and then what ended up happening was I would get opportunities that I didn't expect from this. Like, The Advocate approached me, for instance, and I wrote for them for a little while. Huffington Post, I got some really good writing gigs out of the whole thing. And then I discovered, holy shit, I am a writer. I didn't even necessarily know it in the first place. And this was all kind of going on. This started in 2012, the Twitter thing. My divorce was 2015. So it was kind of coinciding with that as my, kind of like persona, this whole gay at home dad thing is getting bigger. My personal life is also kind of going through some trauma. Yep. And, so it was kind of I definitely had moments where, I felt like I was living 2, 3, 4 different lives, at one time. It was really just a strange journey is all I can say. But now that I'm on the other side of it, which is it's pretty much like, I don't think the cleverness or the uniqueness of like at Gay at Home Dad allures that many people like it used to. It's kind of old news, but I have all these great upcoming projects that have kind of been blossoming over the past 2 years, which I get to show the world over the next 2 years. So I kind of am happy that it went from being a satirical, funny account to now I want to hold a little more gravity, if you will. So I kind of feel like that's happening, and I love it. I'm embracing it. Obviously I took the anonymity out of it years ago. So, so that's it just kind of did though. And that's really the best way to put it. And it's also how I fell in the writing. People ask how I did. I'm like, it just kind of happened. I don't know. It literally just kind of happened like that.
Gotcha.
So in the stars, I suppose.
I'm not going to ask you some of the trite questions that I'm sure you've been asked, or I've been asked. So what's it like to be a gay dad, or, what are the challenges? But one of them that you probably have been asked, but I'm going to ask it in hopefully a slightly different way.
Okay.
Is there anything you've learned about yourself as a gay dad that you realize, man, I'm glad I had to learn that?
Oh, completely. I think absolutely. I think the biggest thing that I've learned is the relinquishing of my selfishness, if that makes any sense. I basically had to relinquish my selfishness, literally, like what I just said. I had to let it go. I had to let go of myself and realize like because it's true, I love my kid more than anything in the world. So that itself is before him that wasn't there, and all of a sudden, boom, he's here. Mm-hmm. And he's this entity that I would do anything for. I would take a bullet for him, of course. And, and I tell him stuff like, I love to I grew up Catholic, so I love to that's like the guilt there. I'll tell him this just every once in a while. Like it just happens to randomly come up. By the way, kiddo, I would die for you. He's like, Dad, why are you telling me this? And I'm like, I just want to make sure it's so funny, but.
It's so funny because my girls, we're and I'm sure your son is there because he's mm-hmm. growing up in the digital age. But it's like we're in the Instagram world. I'm not a Snapchat. That's my hubby. He Snapchats with them. But I love the Instagram world, and they'll do something, and then I'll say something that just starts the whole thing. And like my oldest one today posted a picture of herself and about, I wish the sun would come out again so I can really enjoy the spring. And so I thought, okay, here we go. Yeah, it's going to play now. And I'm like, oh, but you are the sunshine of my life and you light up the world and you don't need the sun to come out, blah, 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 right? So she responds, but she responds via text, which this shit drives me nuts. It's like, okay.
And she's like so irritated.
Right. Well, no, she wasn't irritated. She's like, well, I had asked her, I said, I need to know the mileage on your car because I'm getting ready to transfer the car into her name. It's like, okay, you're 23. It's your issue now. Here, you put the title.
That's good.
Name, nice, you good. Now, and all this stuff, right? And so she replied back, okay, here's the mileage. And she goes, oh, thanks for the nice comment. So here's where the dad kicks in. What comment? Yeah. I asked you for your mileage. The comment on Instagram. I'm like, oh yeah, I must have been drunk when I put that up. Sorry. So it's like now you can have. I mean, I can always have fun with my kids, but it's so interesting in the digital age how you can start to do this stuff. And she'll post. Like she posted something the other day about, oh, I'm so happy to have this man in my life, and it's her new boyfriend, which right now we really like. It's pretty new, but we met. Sure. Couple of weeks ago. I'm like, yeah, okay, this one I'm kind of liking. He's older. He's got a good job. He can carry on a conversation. He doesn't have any weird phobias that I can figure out. He kind of just goes with the flow. So far, he's like a 7 out of 10 for what I know, right? So
I imagine that both of you, I can just imagine like the conditions that he must meet, because I would be the same way with my kids. Exactly.
So she posts this on Instagram, right? Oh, I'm so glad to have this man. He's like the best guy in the world. I'm like, okay. So I commented, and Dad takes second place. It's like,
that's
interesting,
so
fun things you get to do now.
That's great. I already do that with my kiddo, just so you know. And like he's almost scared of going. He's entering. Well, think about it. Actually, I think your girls would end up being millennials, and my kid is like the new Gen Z. Yeah, and Gen Z. So he's almost like scared to go on to Instagram or Twitter because I've already kind of staked my claim out. And I think he's kind of like going like, oh shit, like my dad. And I keep telling him like, hey buddy, if you want in the future, I can get you, several thousand followers here and there. And he's just like, Dad, no. And like, he's got such a different take on social media. I think I might have successfully scared him away from social media, which would actually be a good thing as a parent if you think about it. Like as long as he's not, a total like, recluse or whatever. But yeah. If he's not into social media, like if he's barely into it, that's great. That's exactly where I'd like him to be, like barely into it. He doesn't need to be like, yeah.
You bring up something interesting, Frank. And this is a question that kind of evolves over time. So your son's 8 going on 9.
Right.
Right now, what would you feel like you'd like to most protect him from at this age?
Well, the real internet, because everything, like he has a phone, he has an iPad, but like everything is on, you can lock that shit down now, which I love. Like it just takes about, 20 minutes as a parent on and to look and make sure. And I don't know how many parents do this, but you really should do it. And I also watch what he watches, like, or not watch, but I'll look at the list or whatever. I'll actually go through and I'll see like, oh, what has he watched and things like that. And if it looks like he's been on kind of like a violent tip or something like that, I'm like, okay, buddy, why don't we watch like the Never Ending Story or something like that? Like, very like, so I stay on top of his social media. I also guard, he has this little girlfriend who likes to text him. I guess she's just all grown at 9 and she texts him at like 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night, and his bedtime's at 8 or 8:30. And I love to always reply with like, "Hey, this is Briggs' dad, and Briggs is asleep, and he'll get back to you tomorrow." And she always is like, "Oh, okay, I'm so sorry." I'm like, "It's all good," but I'm still monitoring that phone, so it's like, it's a different thing. Like he'll have, freedom, but I don't know what damn age that's going to be. I don't know if it's smart. Do you give a 13-year-old freedom on the internet? Like when do you give them like free, complete, as like where you can just type in what you want and it pulls up, whatever that go, and then the other thing, you can do things like say, I'll let you have freedom, but I'm also going to monitor your Google searches or something like that. Like there's different ways to whatever. And then there's the punishment aspect, which I love, which is like, if you don't do this, I'm going to take away the Wi-Fi password for a day. It's there's all these different, so, I'm using it. Let's just say I'm kind of like I make sure to stay in touch with that's part of what I like about being on Twitter and all this kind of stuff is I stay in touch. So that way I know what my kid is up to. So if there's some new app or something like that, I've heard about it already, so I stay on top of it.
So most of my listeners are going to be, well, actually, no. They used to be LGBTQ. Now it's a really wide audience. So
that's great.
You just dispelled a myth. It's like you said, okay, my son has this little girlfriend. And I was like, what do you mean? You're gay and your son has a girlfriend. This is going to fuck with some people's minds. It's like, wait, all gay people turn people gay. No, we don't. It's like this thing. So how have you, if you've encountered that yet, how do you combat that when you have those people that, oh, but wait, he's the son of a gay guy? And
so what's funny, okay, I love it. I love this. So you compare myself to my kid and you would see he is just, and I hate to kind of use this, but it's kind of like, I don't know, I'm going to use it. He's kind of all boy, if you will, masculine. He kind of like has masculine qualities, like things like that. I don't know. And that doesn't mean, this is where people get mad at me. They're like, well, wait, I'm super masculine and I'm gay. And they're like, yes, that can, like my ex-husband, for instance, very masculine and gay. Like his mom probably had no clue, whatever, when she was young. So anyway, I'm not assigning a sexuality to him. Like he's 9 years old, for God's sakes. But what I'm gonna do is, as he gets older, I just kind of make sure that he's exposed to it all, meaning like he knows what LGBTQ plus is. Like it's not a big secret. It's not something that's and I feel like that's going to allow what's funny is here. I would actually like to pull it back to my book. Because in Raised by Unicorns,
I haven't given permission yet to do that. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I have to, because this is like perfect.
No, this is the perfect segue.
Then put it. All right, let's stick a pin in that right there.
Yeah.
And then we'll come back to it later, because I can tell you.
She was saying that, I'm like, oh, I hope he goes for the book now, because this is a great way to step into all these beautiful.
Perfect segue.
Step and let you tell people what the book's all about. But
well, if you want to introduce whatever you want to do,
no, you go for it.
Fine. So essentially what happened was Kleist Press, who is the largest independent LGBTQ plus book publishers in the world, they approached me about a year and a half or so ago, and they said, hey, we have this idea for this anthology. We want it to be from children like your kids, and they had a few names for the title. I'm like, these don't catch. So I said, all right, let me like think, like ruminate, give me like a week. Come up with some names, maybe some different title names, and like kind of just see how I feel about the whole project. So I came back to 1 week later and I had a list of, oh my God, the laundry list, like the cutting room floor were like hilarious. Like I had, one of them was literally Children of the Scorned. Yeah. Like I was like, and then I had, another one I was proud of was Pride and Progenies. So it's kind of like Pride and Progeny. Yeah. So eventually we settled on, and I love this, and I do think this is the right one, Raised by Unicorns, which is obviously a riff on Raised by Wolves. Because it's almost kind of self-deprecating in its own way, but it's also like appropriate. There's just so many things about Raised by Unicorns. I think it's great. It catches. So once I had the name, I said, yeah, I want to do this. So we basically put out like a shout out, like if you are anybody that has any LGBTQ plus parent of any type in the background, in your background, please, respond. I had maybe about 100 to 150 people that were like, yes, I'm really interested in this. And then maybe about half that, 70 to 75, actually wrote, for me. And then I had to take that and whittle it into 15 stories. Actually, it's 14 stories and one interview I did with I'll tell you about that later. The interview was great. But yeah, and what they all are is they are very diverse stories from a diverse group of people about growing up as the child of an LGBTQ plus parent. So to hear their perspective, and you're going to have to read this, Rick. I'm just telling you, like, it will blow your mind. It is different than what you think. There are challenges that you just haven't thought of that, like, they have to live with and things like that. And what were we speaking about right before this? And
it's interesting that you just bring that up, because this just happened. I mean, literally, I have been out of the closet now going on, it'll be 20 years next year. And again, my children, my youngest was 9 months old. My oldest was 4.5. And over the holidays, and I don't even remember where this came up and how it came up. Oh no, it was my youngest one's birthday. So her birthday is in January, and she's freshman in college here in the city where we live. And so she said, "Hey, for my birthday, I'd like to, just have some friends over and, just cook dinner for us." I'm like, "Cool, I'd love to do it." So in the midst of the conversations happening at the table, suddenly the conversation came up around, well, what's it like with the two dads? Because all the girls, all her friends are cool with it, but they started asking. Right.
There's still curiosity. Right.
And they're, even in college years, they're curious about how it's been in that life. And my youngest one says, well, it's been cool. The only time I ever felt it was an issue was when my sister told me not to tell anybody at school that I had gay dads. And I suddenly whipped my head around. And I'm like,
I bet.
What happened? I'm just now hearing about this at 19 years,
Yeah.
It's interesting because you kind of, as a parent, and I'm gonna put my assumptive self into this, because I assumed they seemed happy. They had friends. Every year I marched into the teacher's room, on back
exactly.
To you need to know about this, blah blah blah, and mostly to go, I'm gonna mark my.
You assumed it wasn't a secret.
To mark
you assumed. Yeah, you assumed that she had the pride and the whatever to speak. Right, exactly. And what you're saying is that's not usually the case, actually. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think it's so important that these stories get told, because there are things that even as parents, regardless of sexuality, there are things we don't know our kids are thinking that, God, if we knew, it would help us so much.
It's true. Do you want to hear something really strange? And I think is a great point to bring up in this. And I hope I keep speaking about this. And I think the more I speak about it, they're going to do something and change it. And I'll be like, yes, they changed it. When you go into Microsoft Word and you type in the words, my mom's or my dad's, it automatically wants to put an apostrophe and make it possessive, as in my dad's tie, instead of my dad's love me. So to this day, literally to this day, this update, it has not happened yet. And our kids, which they say there's an estimated 6 million in the United States that have an LGBTQ plus parent in some form, whether it's they were divorced a long time ago or whatnot. There's 6 million people that can't write about them. My mom's, my dad's, because Microsoft instantly wants to make it a correction. It's ridiculous. It's so, and it's little things like that you don't think about, but it's that's what they have to deal with. Or school forms you bring home that say father and mother, and my son's embarrassed to hand it to me and say, Dad, you're gonna have to fix this one too. I'm like, I got them. Yeah. I always change them. Yep. I cross out mother and I put fucking fabulous father number 2. Is what I put underneath.
I agree. I used to cross out and put parents. It's the parent 1, parent 2. That bugs me. It's no, parent. I'm the dad.
Parent is good. I actually do fantastic father I always make it a joke. So I always do. I genuinely do that. I cross out mother and I put fantastic father number 2. I don't put fuck, but I do put fantastic.
So let's talk a little bit about that interview before we have to wrap this up. And I can tell that I need to have you back on again, because I think you and I could rant and riff about this.
Oh yeah, we could absolutely, for sure.
So the interview in the book, you piqued my interest with that comment.
Sure. So I'm not a big, I don't know if you are yourself a big sports fan, but I myself am not. But I also know that so many people in the United States are. Like, I'm in such a minority for not liking baseball, for instance. It's like, whoa. I got the opportunity. One of the people that kind of came forward with this whole thing with Raised by Unicorns was ex-MLB pitcher Joe Valentine is his name. Awesome guy. Like, he's like your typical, like, you can tell he's from Long Island when you talk to him, which I love. So it's like, I can just talk to him all day because he's got that Long Island, I love it. But he kind of came out of the closet when not himself, he's not gay, he's straight, he has 2 kids, but he came out of the closet with his having been raised by 2 women recently, like several years ago, before he, finally actually got out of MLB. So I had a whole interview with him, and he told me everything about, like, it gets nuts. It's like dugout talk, and like I felt like I was there. Like, I literally got to like ask it. Like, it was like cool. He was telling me, like, this is what happened in the damn dugout. Is that, like, somehow the conversation of gay parents came up. One of the players was very like, well, I can't see any normal kid coming out of 2 gay parents. And Joe was like, hey, what do you think of me? You know what I mean? Like, he did the whole, like, what do you think of me? Yeah. And I loved him telling me this, and it really conveys in the book. You can really tell his, like, what do you, and he challenged him, and he came out, if you will. And that, as a matter of fact, that's actually when he kind of came out, and there was articles about it. He's spoken about it. So he has been wonderful. But yeah, like, just I wanted to actually do it in an interview form at the very end of the book. So it's kind of how it closes. It's kind of like this great interview. And
that's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like, because his aspect is so incredibly hyper masculine, like the MLB, you know what I mean? That's like so to hear how he's kind of had to deal with that, and it's just pretty amazing. But yeah.
Well, it is amazing. And this is something that I think a lot of people, we could kind of put things in buckets about coming out. So, there's the teens that are coming out, and then there's
Jay-Z just did. Just did.
Yep, exactly. And
his mother.
Yeah. It's like people tend to forget this coming out thing. It's not only a journey for the person coming out. It's suddenly, and when I used to speak for PFLAG, we used to speak at speakers bureaus for PFLAG and sit next to parents and go, the minute my kid came out, I started my coming out journey. And
exactly.
I tend to forget some of that some of the times because we get the sensationalized coming out story. And then suddenly it's like, wait, what about this person? What about my wife when I came out to her? What's her coming out story?
Well, exactly. I think that's one of the biggest like misconceptions about coming out of the closet is I think people think like it's like some big grand thing and you do it. And then it's automatically like the world just fucking knows you're gay. Right. No, you have to come out of the closet like sometimes on a daily basis. Like, some cleaners come over to my house and they realize, like, they see pictures of me and, or something like you come out of the closet all the time.
Yep.
So it's not just a one-time occurrence. And I think that's a big misconception in the straight world about gay people that they should know is like, oh no, we come out of the closet.
But,
literally
here's the thing, and you just
daily.
So interesting, Frank, because it's not just, yes, the gay world, one thing, but people don't get nearly as upset. Yet it's kind of similar when somebody's like, oh, well, what about your husband or your wife? And you're straight and you're not married. It's like,
right.
Why do we put these societal presumptions into our lives instead of going, hey, I like you, so ask the question, are you married?
Sure.
Do you have a husband?
Right. I see what you're saying. Right. What lens are they looking through?
Right, and everybody's got a lens. So, the thing is Frank and I have fabulous lenses that we look through.
Oh my God, my lens is like rose-colored with glitter. It's
exactly
amazing. I love my lens.
Yeah, our lens is the best in the world. So
sometimes it's a little, a little dirty, but that's okay.
Yeah, but
you just wipe the lens off, and it's a new week. So
yeah, exactly. That's what those silk hankies are all for, is to clean those lenses, honey. So anyway, well, you know what, Frank? I'm serious. I'm going to have you back because
I love it.
Riff and rant on so much, and what a perfect gift that we are giving. Okay, again, because we're perfect at this, so let's not let anybody forget that. But the perfect gift of a book that really epitomizes what fatherhood is all about. For Father's Day, the new book, Unicorns, Raised by Unicorns. I love it, love it, love it. It will be available here on the show page where you can link over to Amazon and make Frank even more fabulously rich, because we all know you make so much money on book sales. That's okay. I'm being.
Oh God, I'm just swimming in it. Let me tell you, my trip to Goodwill last week, I was like shopping spree. So,
oh, my lovely little friends that are like, oh, you're a published author. Oh my God, you must be doing so well. I'm like, honey, I can't live on 90 cents a book.
You need to know exactly. Like, well, the whole key with, just quickly, we can wrap it up with books, is you have to have books. That's the key. Like, you have to have like 15 literally lined up, and then you can start talking like, I got a little bit of cash, I can actually buy real groceries. But
the beauty of books, and the real beauty of books for those who, I don't even know how we got into this, but I'm going to share this, is it makes you credible. You've done something that a lot of people...
it's that Library of Congress shit. I'm like, I love it. I love knowing there is an ISBN. Like the whole thing like that. I can't
wait to go to DC the next time and go there and go, okay, where's my book? Let's look it up here.
I want to do the same thing. I cannot wait. Exactly. I love it.
Yeah, but I'm not really interested in going to DC right now for a few... Well, we'll see how long.
Oh, well, of course. No, I know. I'm scheduled to go. I'm going to speak at, by the way, everybody, I'm going to be speaking at Politics and Prose on Father's Day itself at, I believe, 7 p.m. But my son will be with me. So if anybody listening wants to see, Father's Day, Washington, D.C., Politics and Prose, me and my kiddo talking about the book, I'm sure.
Awesome.
So, yep. Yep.
So cool, man.
I just remember. I'm like, wait, I just remembered that. Yeah,
that's awesome. Well, we'll get that on the show page as well. We'll be promoting that. And
thank you.
I just have to say, for somebody, okay, so Frank and I have never met, which I think most of you people who listen to my podcast know. I rarely have ever met most of my guests in person, but I feel like the sisterhood has started, so we will move
completely.
Yes, we will duly move forward into our own little magical kingdom of being sisters forever now. And
I love it. I feel the love.
Shout out to our friend Jeff, who brought us together. Jeff Dorda Publicity.
Yeah.
He brought us together, as Jeff is so well known for doing. He has brought me so many great guests. And this was actually a casual conversation that he doesn't actually represent you, but it turned into something, and we made magic happen, as we're known to do, because we both have our magical fairy wands that we can make many, many things happen. So,
yep, just keep the glitter out of my house. That's all I'm gonna say.
I hear
too much mess.
They keep the glitter out of my hair, but I don't have any left. So sometimes glitter on a bald head actually is a statement. So there you go.
I like that idea. Okay, Rick.
Well, Frank, buddy, I really enjoyed this conversation. So glad.
Same. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And I know you got more books in the works, so we will do this when the next one comes out. So thanks for being here.
Definitely do. Okay. Thank you.
All right, there you have it. Another episode of Life Uncloseted has come to an end, but that's okay. We're going to be back in just a couple of days sharing more stories, tips, tricks, and wisdom for helping you live your life uncloseted. And you know what? You can share too. Just take a few moments if you like and if you believe in this podcast and share it with someone you know today. Share it from your phone, go share it on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you are. Maybe even give us a rating and review, because you know what? It's all about the planet living their life uncloseted. I'm Rick Clemens, host of the show and the guy who helps you make those big, bold moves. And I hope you never stop stepping out, stepping up, and stepping in to living your life uncloseted. Catch you real soon. Take care, everyone.